Now, most people like animals. They might not like all animals, but there's always some kind of animal they like, and they're usually the super cute ones. Now, sometimes you find animals that are so adorable that all you want to do is hug them and cuddle them and take them home with you. But these animals are not those animals. These ones are the ugliest species you could possibly think of, and they're pretty dangerous as well. So now we're going to go through a list of dangerously ugly animals. Let's start with a stonefish. These guys vary greatly in terms of size and color depending on where they're from. They've adapted to blend into the rocks where they live, and they are very, very good at it. Even up close and on their own, it barely looks like something that would be alive. This is actually a big part of what makes them so dangerous, though. They blend in so well that people don't see them until they step on them. At that point, you'll almost definitely end up stepping on a spine covered in extremely deadly venom. They have over a dozen of these spines on their back, each with its own gland for venom. This venom is only released when pressure is applied, such as when someone steps on them, or, more importantly to them, if something bites down on them. They don't use the venom at all for hunting. It's only for protection. In fact, they can't really release the venom voluntarily. It only releases when pressure is applied, like a whoopee cushion. They hunt by being able to hide. They wait until a fish or shrimp gets close enough, believing that it's just a rock, and then they snatch them. They can move in extremely fast bursts to grab their prey. But similar to a cheetah, they can only do this in short spurts. Otherwise, they actually swim pretty slowly. They can survive outside of the water, too. They don't crawl out of the water like a sea turtle, but if the tide should change while they're sitting there waiting for prey, they can survive up to 24 hours sitting there waiting for the water to come back. Like most of the animals on most dangerous lists, they're not aggressive. They'll almost always just hide or swim away if possible, as they don't want to get into a fight. But they have evolved to have two very important features. They have venom to protect themselves, and they're really ugly. Also to protect themselves. Intelligent and trainable? The Moray Eel will actually work together with other animals, including humans, to get food. Granted, it isn't always on purpose on the other animals' side. They'll learn what certain species do to catch and keep food, and will change behaviors to adapt, remembering, for instance, which divers bring food with them, and where they keep it. In some instances, though, it's quite on purpose, as was seen with groupers and moray eels. If a grouper is chasing a fish that chooses to hide in a crack in the rocks, they will ask for assistance from an eel that can fit, and the pair will flush out and share the fish. They also have two sets of jaws, so that when they open their mouths, a second pair of jaws in the back of their throat comes forward to snatch the food. So one set catches a fish, and the second set drags the fish down its throat. That's gross in a fascinating sort of way. There are 200 different types of moray eel, and they vary in size and color and habitat, the smallest being less than the length of a pencil, and the largest being taller than the height of a standard ceiling. Some of the colors and patterns they come in are actually really pretty, but somewhere between the always open mouthful of teeth and the unblinking eyes, they end up being pretty ugly. To top that off, they are slimy. They have a mucus that covers their whole body. They use it like glue in the underground tunnels that they create to make it into a more solid cave, as well as allowing them to glide through the water faster. In some moray eels, this mucus is also poisonous. Like many intelligent species, such as humans, apes, dolphins, they have individual personalities, so it's hard to know what you're getting yourself into. Some are more relaxed and will only attack if they feel threatened, and some are very aggressive and will actively chase off divers. They're dangerous because not only will they bite, but they will bite hard and fast and not let go. Some bats are really cute. They're like little flying puppies. Aww. Not this one. The wrinkle-faced bat is not a pretty sight. Scientists are not yet sure why this species has such an odd-shaped face, but you have to assume they evolved that way for a reason, right? Like most bats, they aren't aggressive, and these guys only eat fruit. But if they do bite you, this particular bat has a bite force stronger than any other bat their size, so it will hurt. All types of bats have the potential to be very dangerous. Not because they can eat you or anything like that, simply because they carry a host of diseases ranging from rabies to Ebola to many variations of the coronavirus such as SARS and MERS. There are currently over 130 different kinds of viruses that are found in bats, and that number continues to grow. Various kinds of bats will sometimes share living arrangements, causing them to also share whichever viruses they carry. They also travel and take the viruses with them, spreading them through their droppings or their bites, and they live several decades, allowing them ample time to collect and spread these viruses. Interestingly enough, most of these viruses have almost no effect on them. It is currently believed that this is in large part because of the stress of flying. Flying has caused the bats to evolve to allow them to handle the intense temperature changes and rapid heart rate required to survive flight. And this makes their immune system strong enough to combat any of these viruses. It even prevents them from getting things like cancer. Does all of this make bats bad? Actually, no. They are extremely helpful and important to the environment and to people. They hunt and eat a lot of insects and are one of the main factors that keep pests like mosquitoes from being insanely overpopulated. They are also a pollinator, like bees, which means that they're a huge part of making the plants grow and allowing the ecosystem to survive. Also, they may carry a lot of diseases, but they also cure them. Because they have the ability to have these conditions and not get ill, scientists study them to come up with cures and treatments for many of these diseases. That may sound kind of crazy, but it's actually not uncommon. Many of our medications and treatments have been made from plants and animals. Sea anemones are being used to treat MS and heart disease. Horseshoe crab blood is the key ingredient in almost all vaccines. The venom in a bee's sting is being used to treat HIV, arthritis, and some cancers. For every problem that nature puts forth, there's also a solution. It just isn't always where you would expect it. Most of us tend to believe that dangerous water animals all live in the ocean. After all, that's where the sharks are, right? Well, this guy is freshwater only, and he is not as pretty as his turtle cousins. The alligator snapping turtle is named because it has rough ridges on its shell and skin that look like an alligator. They tend to be mostly brown. They will often appear green, though, because of the algae that grows on them. And they get big. These are a hard one to miss when they can live up to 200 years and weigh up to 400 pounds. There are small families that don't add up to that weight. They are opportunistic eaters, which means that if they have the opportunity to eat something, they will. Fish, snakes, frogs, plants, the leftovers of other predators, whatever they can get their mouths on. They have a little pink tongue that contrasts greatly with the bumpy brown ugliness of the rest of them, and they use this to lure in fish because it looks like a worm. So basically, they catch food by doing this. They aren't aggressive unless they feel threatened, and believe me, you don't want to threaten them. They essentially have a beak, and the point is very sharp and can pierce through whenever they bite, as well as potentially tearing. This is called a snap. They bite and release. It stabs and tears through, but it is really more of a warning shot to show you what they're capable of and to tell you to back off. If after this, whatever they bit is not smart enough to back off, they will likely move to a different kind of bite. This is very dangerous because they will bite, lock on, and will not let go. Despite being called snapping turtles, they're much more famous for this second kind of bite. A lot of damage is done on the part of the thing that has been bitten because they struggle and the turtle doesn't let go, so it continues to tear. They also carry a lot of bacteria in their mouths, so if you're bitten and released, you're going to want to disinfect as soon as possible. For the most part, though, if you leave them alone, they leave you alone. Very, very tiny, but very, very deadly. Did you see this one coming? This is a species that is often overlooked, especially in places like Minnesota, because they're so prevalent. But believe it or not, these ugly little guys can be very dangerous. Similarly to the bat, they're not dangerous in and of themselves, but because of the reactions they cause. Many people are allergic to them, and they also carry a lot of deadly diseases with them. They're less threatening around Minnesota than some other places because of vaccines, herd immunity, and a relatively low percentage of them carrying diseases. But especially in places in South America and Africa, they are very deadly. They spread big-name diseases like malaria, West Nile virus, dengue fever, and Zika virus. Technically speaking, mosquitoes inadvertently cause more deaths every year than any other animal species on the planet. They're more than just a pest. Protecting yourself with medical treatments, nets, and bug repellents are the best way to avoid getting any unfortunate side effects of a mosquito bite. Interestingly enough, only female mosquitoes bite. They need the blood in order to grow their eggs, rather than actually feeding on it. Both male and female mosquitoes feed mostly on nectar. The reason mosquito bites itch is because when a mosquito bites, they exchange some saliva. Your body senses that and reacts to it. Your immune system recognizes that it does not belong in your system and attacks it. This causes an allergic reaction. While for most people this reaction is a small bump and some itching, for some people it can be extreme. This is usually the case if that person is legitimately allergic to mosquitoes and usually results in drastically more swelling. Let's finish this with a big guy. Named for claws that are powerful enough to crack open coconuts, the coconut crab is a monstrous species. It is the largest land-dwelling crab. Charles Darwin visited the tropical islands where these live, and when warned about them by the locals, assumed that they were exaggerating or playing a trick on him. When he finally saw one for himself, he called them what the world would see them as to this day, monstrous. They can lift up to 60 pounds. It is also known as the robber crab and will steal leftovers from other predators, humans, garbage cans, whatever they can find. They find food with an amazing sense of smell. They love to eat coconuts, and in addition to being able to crack them open with their bare claws, will actually climb the trees to get them. They will throw the coconuts down from the tree in hopes that it breaks that way because it's a lot less work. Then, in order to get down from the tree, rather than climbing, because that's also a lot of work, they will often just fall on purpose from the top of the tree. In order to get them out of the trees, the locals will actually tickle them until they let go. Yep, that's their strategy. That's one of the main ways that the locals catch them in order to eat them. However, it is a bit of a gamble to eat them because they can be poisonous depending on what they were eating. Similar to most poisonous tree frogs, who get their poison from the poisonous ants that they eat, the coconut crab gets its poison from their diet. They're also aggressive and mean and will not hesitate to chase you away from their territory or their food, even if their food is in your garbage can. They are unsocial even amongst themselves. Because they're eaten as a delicacy, they're actually coming close to being endangered. So in some places, it's illegal to eat them.